Welcome to Ringsiders Wrestling. Today, I'm joined by former NXT superstar who has competed for Middle Kingdom Wrestling and Oriental Wrestling Entertainment, both based in China, currently signed to Major League Wrestling as the first ever female signee. Today, I'm joined by Zeda Zhang. Thank you for joining us, Zeda.
Thanks for having me.
So how are you?
I am doing awesome. I just went on a little vacation around Taiwan because that's what I've been doing out here. Everything's like, vacation time because the government here right now is promoting vacations because they want people to go out and spend money. So everything's super cheap. So I was like, all right, cool. I just went in the mountains, got a little workout in, hung out with my family. So it was cool.
Hey, there's worse places to have a little vacation. That I'm quite jealous of that. We've been stuck here for the last few months. So I mean, it's nice that you're getting to have a vacation and that you're actually promoting doing that, because most countries right now are still, travel banned.
Yeah, well, I can't go outside of Taiwan or else I can't come back in. But it's safe over here because there's no cases. There has been 0 cases for months now out here. So everything's normal here. So
yeah, I've heard that Taiwan handled it really well. Like the way Taiwan's handled it has been like the best in the world. Probably a lot of countries could learn something from Taiwan when it comes to lockdown and like testing and everything. It sounds like Taiwan's been handled it the best.
Yeah, they were super strict with it, but I mean, it's paid off. So now I'm like, all right, gonna go climb mountains and stuff.
I mean, it must be weird that things are back to normal. You can go out properly and not have to. I mean, of course, it's still where there's a pandemic going on, but it's more normal than it has been all year.
Yeah, it's weird because all my friends back in the US and around other countries, they're just like, yeah, we're locked down. Yeah, we can't do this. And I was like, oh, that's weird because it's normal here. Sorry, y'all, that sucks.
So, I mean, like, we'll start with the MLW. I mean, you debuted with MLW at MLW Fusion 85 against Spider Lady, and that was really cool, I imagine. The only problem is you suffered an injury shortly after, in MKW, I believe. And was it MKW?
No, so I got injured. Well, I got signed to MLW, and then right when I got announced, like, I think it was either that night or the day after, I got injured at training. Or no, actually no, it was before that. Oh yeah, no, it was that, because I was announced in October and I wrestled in November. So yeah, it was literally right after I was announced, I got injured.
And it was doing a missile dropkick, right?
No, so it popped out again during the MKW thing. So I was already injured before that, but I had already planned my tour to go to Asia, and so everything was already planned. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and we're going to wrestle easy. And the whole match was what I thought was going to be easy. But who would have thought my knee popped out taking a missile drop kick. I wasn't even missile drop kicking. I took one and popped out.
Oh.
So, I don't know. So yeah, there's been an injury for a while, and now, I'm trying to get it back to normal, and we'll see.
So, what you debuted in MLW, and obviously you had the injury, but then with everything that was going on with the pandemic, you'd have missed some amount of time anyway. So, was the last time you wrestled shortly before your injury?
I don't think I did. The last time. No, I'm sorry. I did wrestle. I wrestled at Inoki Dojo. That is the gym that I train out of in California.
Yeah.
So it was, a local show and stuff. So just wrestling and kind of like continuing with my practice and whatever else. But like wrestling for MLW, that was the only show
Yeah.
because I was injured, and of course they're trying to look out for me, make sure everything's okay. So they took me off, and I've been off for a while. And then after that, I was supposed to wrestle somewhere, but I ended up getting super sick. I think I had COVID. I don't know. It felt like COVID. I was super sick, and then COVID happened. So
You must be super keen to get back in the ring for MLW then, having only appeared once.
yes, I'm trying to. Uh, like I've been trying to wrestle, but the thing is, there is not that much wrestling out here in Taiwan.
Hmm.
There is one show, but there's some changes that happened out there. So there's there's not much. I've literally just been training, trying to train. There isn't much training either. So it's been a little tough, but I literally just found a place that I could train at for pro wrestling. But um, I only got to go once, and there isn't that many people there. So we'll see how it is. I'm gonna go check it out some more.
Yeah, that must be frustrating not being able to train properly. You know, you wanting to get back in the ring. Like you said, there's only one or two places that you can actually do that where you currently are. So it's going to be really cool to see you back in the ring for MLW, having only wrestled there once. What are you looking forward to the most about getting back in the ring?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out a little bit.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, what are you looking forward to the most about getting back in the ring for MLW? Having only wrestled there once, you must be super keen to get back in the ring. What are you looking forward to the most about MLW?
Well, the thing is, after WWE, I wrestled for them a couple times. It was supposed to be three times, but the third time didn't work out because there was an injury that happened during the show. So my partner had to leave. But the thing is, I'm sorry, just 1 second. So the thing is, they've always been really nice to me. The show is well ran. People know what they're talking about over there, and I really like the wrestlers there. Everyone was really helpful, so I enjoyed being over there. So then a whole year later, when I had went on tour in Asia and then went to OWE and everything, MLW came back to sign me. So I was like, all right. And then got signed, went and had my first official show being signed on a contract with them. But then, the injury happened and that kind of took me off. And then COVID happened. And then 2020 has been so.
So, what are your thoughts on being the first ever female signee for MLW? That must be cool.
Yes, like I was actually surprised. I didn't know that I was the first. I have seen other females wrestle, but I guess they just weren't signed. They just came in to wrestle and stuff. But
Hmm.
I'm excited that they've been around for a long time, but since they never really had a female roster, I'm excited to help launch that. And that's why they brought me in. They brought me in to help launch this female division, and I really want to fulfill that. I want to fulfill that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're obviously intending to build a division in MLW for the female roster. Is there anyone that you'd like to see brought in who you think would fit into MLW as part of that women's division?
Sorry, you just cut out right before.
Must be the Wi-Fi. Yeah, is there anyone you'd like to see brought into MLW in the women's division that you think would fit in well?
I think I would have to say my friend Tainara, Tainara Conti. We have very similar styles, and so it would be really nice to be able to wrestle her because we trained together all the time when we were there. And then on top of that, she has a martial arts background in judo, and my background, jiu-jitsu, is very similar to judo. So we have similar backgrounds, and I just know that we would have a great match together.
Yeah, that's one thing that surprised me is you've got a really good martial arts background. Obviously, you competed in MMA, undefeated with 2 wins, which is impressive anyway. But you trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and was it Back May, the other one? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I was looking at the martial arts that you've trained in, and there's quite a list of martial arts that you competed in.
It is. I started with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then I went into grappling, which is pretty much like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu but without a gi. So some of the moves are a little different.
Yeah.
And wrestling, American wrestling, mostly folk style, freestyle, Greco-Roman, and then Muay Thai kickboxing with some boxing and some judo, because you kind of have to know all of it. But I would say my specialty is ground game. So I really enjoy grappling and jiu-jitsu. So that's mostly my thing, and it's the first thing that I did and the longest thing I've done. So I did that and competed in, let's see, 4 jiu-jitsu tournaments, and had, I think it was either like 13, I think it was like 13 matches. It's been so long ago. It's crazy. Yeah, about 13 matches and stuff. So that's definitely my first love. And then MMA came about just because it made sense to transition into it, but also because I was tricked into it the first time. And then when I won, I was like, oh, this is what it is. Like, and I fell in love with it. So I ended up doing MMA, and that became my thing. But yeah, I would say all those things plus various little disciplines here and there, because you kind of have to know everything with MMA.
Yeah, that's hence mixed martial arts. You've kind of got to have like a knowledge of most of the martial arts to be able to do it. I imagine you've got to be able to stand up, you've got to be able to grapple. How do you feel like that's helped you with professional wrestling? Because a lot of people like Shayna Baszler, for example, she's a very good mixed martial artist. So you can tell that comes across in her style. How do you feel like it's helped you in professional wrestling, having that MMA background?
It's helped a lot. It especially since I feel like I don't have to fake a style to
Mm.
make a style. A lot of times people, when they come from like no martial arts background and then they just jump right into pro wrestling, it's it's you know, I can see some people, if they come from a sports background, let's say basketball or soccer or whatever, and they go into wrestling, it does help. Every sport helps. But with martial arts, because it is a fighting one-on-one contact sports, it's the closest thing to wrestling. So it's easier to transition over and not have to think, how am I going to incorporate my style and make myself stand out versus someone else? Because there's so many styles within MMA already, you're naturally going to stand out with your move set.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that makes it a little easier. And on top of that, I'm more used to moving in that type of way. So it's helped me a lot. There's certain times where it doesn't help, where it's the complete opposite. But that's what's so fun about it. It's trying to figure out, hey, this is what I do in MMA normally and jiu-jitsu. How do I turn that into pro wrestling? How do I turn that where the crowd can understand it and would enjoy seeing it?
Yeah.
That's the art side that's fun about
Yeah,
it.
definitely. I think that's why I enjoy watching people like yourself, for example, and Shayna, and anyone else with a mixed martial arts background. Is it looks so much more legitimate when you're in the ring, because when you're giving a strike, for example, it always looks really brutal. And when you're taking a hit, it's like you've been hit for real before many times, so you know how to react to being hit. And it just always looks really good, I found. And speaking of Shayna Baszler, you wrestled Shayna in the Mae Young Classic in 2017. What was that like in the ring with Shayna?
It was honestly really nice, really smooth. WWE did a great job matching us together, because they knew that we had similar backgrounds. She's also a ground girl. You know, she enjoys grappling more than the stand-up side, although she's really good at both. But you know, so when they put us together, I was still very new at WWE and wrestling in general because Shayna's been out a veteran, you know, in Japan and stuff, and she's done pro wrestling for at least 2 years at that point, and I was just freshly in. So I really didn't know many pro wrestling moves. I didn't really know anything about it and how to really have a real match. So what they did was they gave us the freedom to just be us,
Hmm.
which rarely happens, especially when you're new at the company. Um, they they don't really let you, you know, have those reins, but they felt it was perfect for that situation for me to just go in and do that with her because when sh when someone who has the same background, they know how to move in the same way.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it was just based on feel. It was all based on feel. And there was not that much planning. It was basically in a way like a shoot. It was like a
Yeah.
shoot because I wouldn't even understand like what is this move, you know, at the time.
I get.
So literally we just went in and grappled and we just told the story that we're both grapplers and we're doing our jujitsu, and that took such quick planning. Basically, we just roll around and we're just like, all right, well, I'm going to put you here. And then I naturally would know, okay, well, I'm going to go here. And then I'm going to put you here. And she naturally would know to go there. So that's the great thing about it. It's like an unspoken type of connection where you're just able to feel each other and know exactly what you're going to do next
Oh, absolutely.
and be able to tell the
Yeah.
story. So I really enjoyed that match. Nice storytelling for what we are trying to get across, and it was very flowy. Even though you know, for the little amount of time I got to wrestle, so I was like, oh, I'm really glad they did that. It really helped me out.
So you mentioned that like with your match with Shayna, that was fairly you were fairly new in WWE at the time, and you were fairly new to
Yeah.
wrestling in general, as in like actually doing it. How long have you been a fan for then? Like, if you were fairly new to WWE at the time, have you always been a fan of pro wrestling, or was that your first taste?
Well, I was a fan back when I was 4 years old. I was really young. And my grandma, she was the one that got me into wrestling. And she didn't know any English. She came, you know, from China and she took care of me growing up. So when, even though I was born in the US, I really didn't know any English because I never got to learn it. My
Yeah.
parents were too busy working. And at the time, I mean, we were not exactly the richest family, so especially back then. So it's not like they can afford a tutor for me. So
Hmm.
I kind of just didn't know English until I was like 6 years old. I didn't really start learning English until I was six. Um, so whatever I saw on TV, I didn't understand what I was watching. I just knew I enjoyed it, and I honestly didn't even know the difference between pro wrestling and wrestling. And what was ironic was I was watching both. I would watch WCW and WWF at the time, but also watch Olympic wrestling and college wrestling. And
Right.
I thought they were just different leagues. And
Right.
I thought that college wrestling and Olympic wrestling was like the cheaper league because they couldn't afford the pyro. And it's
That's
like, oh
amazing.
yeah, this is the crappier league because they can't afford the fancy stuff. And when I saw WCW and WWF at the time, I was just like, wow, this is like the big dogs, you know, this is where they're at the top and they got the money to afford all the stuff so they can do all this
That's
and be
such an
more flat.
innocent way of thinking about it. I love it.
Yeah, it was so funny. And I just didn't know. And so I watched it with her until I'd say around 12 years old. So around 12 years old, I still didn't super understand it. I just saw it like it was a fight. I'm like, these guys are fighting, they're pissed at each other, and that's about it. I didn't know anything about psychology, knew nothing about moves. Like it, in my mind, it was a moves. It was just reaction.
Hmm.
So Then my grandma had Alzheimer's, and she ended up like she got Alzheimer's when I was 12. So that's when I started watching it less.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where when it got really bad, I watched it less and less until she passed away when I was like 15, 16. So when she passed away, I completely stopped watching it because that
Yeah.
was like our thing. It was our bonding thing. And since she was gone, I stopped watching wrestling completely, and it was so far out of my mind. I like, yeah, it just like was so far away from me at that time. And then I didn't get into martial arts until I was in college. So it
Mm.
was a lot later. I started later than most people, but I've always had the interest, and it was because of wrestling, and that ended up giving me the interest to go into jiu-jitsu. If it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't even have gone to do MMA.
Right.
So for some reason, I just always enjoyed watching fighting, wrestling, like martial arts movies, fighting games, Mortal Kombat specifically, because that was my first game I ever played as a kid. So Mortal Kombat. So you can see how my life was heavily influenced with combat sports and fighting.
Yeah.
So later, when I got into college, I lived in a really unsafe city. I almost got gang raped, scared the hell out of me, and it got to a point where I was like, I need to do something to protect myself. So I
Oh.
ended up taking martial arts, but I didn't know what to take. But I picked Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because it was the closest thing to wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I actually did try to go out for the wrestling team when I was in 8th grade, but at that time I got sent away to boarding school, and they wouldn't let me on the wrestling team because I was a girl, because it was a military guy school. The year that I got there, it turned co-ed, but it was a guys military school. So they told me I wasn't allowed to wrestle because I was a girl. So I was pissed. I was pissed
Yeah.
and thought that wasn't fair. By the time I was in high school, I still had the interest. So I guess my interest really, like, I've always had that interest, but I never had the confidence to do it because my background is a shy art girl. I grew up really shy with really bad social anxiety, and I got bullied pretty much my whole childhood and
Mm.
even up into high school. So confidence was really non-existent for me at the time. I just never believed I could even do anything like that. So it wasn't until I started feeling like maybe I should try it out is when I got shot down saying I wasn't allowed to. And then high school, I was too busy trying to get into college to even go out for wrestling. Finally, I get to college. That happened. Scared me so much. Had to go do jujitsu. Did jujitsu, fell in love with it, and then my whole life went the MMA route. And it was through MMA that actually circled me back around to WWE, which was crazy because in my mind, I thought that the only way that WWE would hire anyone was if you were a Olympic wrestler or at least a state championship winner. I
Mm.
didn't think that I would ever have a chance. It's not like I have a wrestling background. And you can't just jump on the wrestling team when you're in college. You have to be recruited. So I didn't think it was even possible. But after doing MMA for a while, I met this girl who writes for Fight Magazine. I met her when I went out to Albuquerque, New Mexico to kind of do a little short training, whatever, at Greg Jackson's. And the thing with Albuquerque and the MMA community out there is it is so tight knit. It's like if you go there to Greg Jackson's and you become friends with someone there, they just like the whole city adds you. The whole city of Albuquerque basically added me on Facebook. So I'm just like, who is this? Like, I'm like, did you train at the gym? They're like, oh no. And I see the mutual friend. I was like, oh, okay. So basically, that's what happened. I had all these people add me on Facebook, and shortly after, well, not shortly after, actually a long time after, this this guy added me on there, and he had a bunch of mutual friends with people there. So he didn't message me, didn't say anything to me for years, like 4 years. And at this point, I had already moved over to California
Mm.
in 2013 when I moved out there, and he didn't hit me. And when I went to Greg Jackson's, it was like 2009 or something. 2000, yeah, I think it was 2009 or something, or 2008. No, I think it was 2000. It was 2008. So yeah, it's a long time. Like, yeah. So basically, I moved out to California. That guy hit me up in. Oh man, actually, it's been longer now that I'm thinking about it. He didn't hit me up till 2016. Yeah. So just imagine how long. Yeah, he did not
Wow.
hit me up 2016.
That's quite
And basically, yeah, and out of nowhere, at this point, I was already training at Black House MMA, and so I was over there, and he hit me up. He goes, "Yeah, I've been watching you training, and I think you be really good for WWE. If you're interested, I can get you a tryout." Because he was friends with one of the old recruiters there, and I was like, "What? What? Really? Like this is how it works? You can just get a okay, yeah, definitely." So I started training for this tryout, and what was hilarious was even up till 2 months before my tryout, I still did not know the difference between pro wrestling and wrestling.
right.
It was, yeah, I honestly did not know, because the thing with me is I'm not exactly someone that will believe something that one person tells me. Maybe if a bunch of people told me the same thing, I would probably start thinking about it. But no one has ever brought up the conversation of pro wrestling with me.
Mm,
Basically, all the people I was around when I was in college and when I was training for MMA were MMA people. It's like I was either with MMA people or I was with models, because I was working as a part-time model at the time.
mhm.
So obviously no one would know anything about pro wrestling. The one guy, one of my teammates in MMA, he told me he was signed to WCW back in the day for like 1 month, and then he quit. But yeah, he was there for 1 month. So he was the one that told me, "Hey, wrestling is all like pre-planned, right?" And I was just like, "Really?" Because I wasn't really sure, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But that was really like a one-time mention, and we never talked about it again. So I
Yeah.
never thought of it. And so the only thing with pro wrestling that I thought was that I thought everything was the same as MMA, but the only difference is they exaggerated their punches and like no, they exaggerated the pain. I
Right.
thought all the punches and everything was the same. I thought they exaggerated the pain, because the thing what I saw with MMA was when you get hit, you don't let your opponent know that you're hurt.
Yeah.
So you just act like you're fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. So because this is for TV, they want it more dramatic. They're gonna want to exaggerate the pain, even though it doesn't hurt them that
That
much. So
kind of
I thought
makes
that was
sense, though. That I
yeah,
can
it kind
see
of
it
makes sense
logic. That does
actually.
make sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So in my mind, I'm like, that's what it is. Like I thought it was exactly pretty much the same, but
Mhm.
just a different league and different rules and stuff. So that's why it never crossed my mind. And when I was training for my tryout, I trained exactly as I would for MMA fight. So the only thing was I cut out the striking and I only focused on the wrestling portion in jujitsu. So all I did was wrestling mostly, and then jujitsu training. And then I had a strength and conditioning coach. I had like a bunch of coaches because you need one for, you know, each discipline, and then you need one for your strength and conditioning. So I went to a strength and conditioning coach, and as I was training, he goes, "You've got a fight coming up," and I was like, "Well, it's not exactly a fight. I have a tryout." And he goes, "Oh, what's it for?" I'm like, "It's for WWE." And he goes, "Oh, there's a pro wrestling gym down the street, right?" And I was like, "Wait, what? There's pro wrestling gyms?" Because I thought that anything that you learned in WWE would be only from WWE. I thought you would have to get signed and they would train you
Sure.
their stuff, their
Yeah.
style, which I mean technically is that
It's
it
kind of
is true.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of true. I didn't know there was such thing as a pro wrestling gym. I thought everyone that went in there were amateur wrestlers.
Hmm.
So I basically went to go check this gym out, and it turned out to be Santino Brothers. And I trained with Brian Kendrick. He had and Joey Chaos. He was great. Basically, they had a accelerated summer program, and so I was there for about like 2 months, and then went through the tryout and got through, and then that started my pro wrestling career. So really, like, yeah, really, I would say most of my training was WWE, and then I really appreciate everything Santino Brothers done. So if it wasn't for them, I definitely would not have gotten in, because I didn't even know what a bump was at the time.
Really?
So I didn't know what that was. No, I did not know. I learned everything pro wrestling from them. I would have just gone in with a amateur wrestling mentality and an MMA mentality, but I didn't know anything about tumbling, other than, when you're a kid and you just kind of rolled around.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know what a bump was. So yeah, I'm thankful that that happened, and I went over there. So yeah, it was a very, when I say new, very new, that's like very, very new. Not just moves, but mentally and how everything was in there. I knew nothing. Never had a match. Before Mae Young Classic, I had, I think, 2 matches, but one doesn't even count because how they told me, I didn't even have my gear yet. I didn't even have gear yet. So literally, we were at a house show, and there was a Royal Rumble going on, and the coach there was just like, "Hey, so you interested in jumping in the Royal Rumble?" And I was just like, "Okay, sure, whatever." I didn't know what I was doing. I just went in and started punching. So
Well, that's
I
what
was
you
like,
do
"Okay, whatever."
anyway. You know.
Yeah, and it was the funniest thing because I literally just wore a sports bra and leggings, the tap out ones that they gave out. It was the most lamest costume ever as my debut. But I didn't want to give up the opportunity.
Of
So
course.
I was like very yes, yes, yes person. So I was like, all right, gonna do it. Yep, gonna do it. So I just freaking went and did it, even though looking back, I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Should I have done that? That was like a weird debut.
Oh,
But
definitely.
whatever.
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're gonna take that chance, aren't you? If you get it, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
I I
So
think
it's funny because I saw the comments after, and they're like, "Oh, that's an interesting outfit. I mean, that's her gear." I was like, "Yeah, well, I had no gear. I didn't even know I was gonna go ask to be up." Like, so that was like my debut. And then the second match I had one with Daria, Sonia Deville.
Mhm.
Okay, so funny story was I trained with Daria before she went to WWE. We
Right.
both trained in MMA. So her gym was literally like down the street from my MMA gym. And our MMA gyms have like a weird relationship with each other where they're kind of rivals, but they're kind of friends. They're like frenemies.
Mhm.
So people get to cross train sometimes. And she came over to my gym to train with me and my wrestling coach, Kenny Johnson. And so I was excited because I was like, man, I finally get a girl to train with because I have no girls to train with over there. It's all guys. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I finally get a girl to train with. She's kind of my size. So yay. We started training together for like a month. Then she just freaking disappears. And I'm just like, where did she go? Like, I was so excited about getting a training partner and she's freaking gone. And I don't hear from her ever again. I don't see her ever again. And then I didn't see her until my tryout.
Oh,
Like,
really? And you
yeah,
were like,
I,
that's where you went.
yeah, like I just didn't see her for months, like 8 months, 8 9 months, and then like yeah, it was like 8 months. So 8 months later, I ended up getting a tryout, and I go there, and I remember like they had us go through every single ring and have to do like yeah workouts in each ring. So I'm running through, and I run through like one of the rings, and I looked up, and there she was, and I was like, what? What is
So
going
you
on?
didn't. So you were looking forward to training with her because it's finally another female you can do some grappling with. she disappears for 8 months and she gets signed to the company that you're trying out with. What was her reaction when she saw you? Was she surprised too?
No, I think she already knew I was, like, she was helping run the tryout, so she knew I was coming in. But we didn't exchange numbers or anything, so it's not like we talked. I just trained with her when she would show up to wrestle. So I didn't have her information at all. She was just like gone. And so, yeah, then all of a sudden, I showed up, I saw her, and I was surprised. She didn't seem all that surprised. I think she knew already that I was coming. But she was just really cool. She's like one of my favorite people. She was really nice to me, looked out for me and stuff, and was just cheering me on during the whole tryout. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Oh, so cool. I mean, like, to have her there at the tryout, and I imagine you'd have had like Sarah Del Rey there too at the WWE tryout.
Yeah. Wait, was she? Yes, she was there. There was a bunch of people there, and it all seemed like a blur because it was just 3 days of craziness. But yeah, she was there. I think all the coaches that's there when I was there, like after I was signed, was there. So Sarah Del Rey, Sarah Amato, Norman Smiley, Coach Bloom, of course, Robbie Brookside.
No pressure then.
I don't know if Carino was there. I don't think he was. Actually, no, not everyone was there. Terry wasn't there either. But yeah, a lot of people were there.
Yeah, I can imagine how like if I was to do a tryout for any reason in front of that group of people, I'd be so nervous. Just by like Steve Carino, Matt Bloom, Regal, Sarah Del Rey. There must have been. Did you feel the pressure when you were trying out then? I mean, it must have been crazy.
I was okay. I don't know. I feel like because of my MMA background, I'm so used to being under pressure, like really high stress. So I feel like I thrive well being under pressure. So I just remember being really determined. When I was in there, I was like, you know what? I know how hard I've been training.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this. After the first day of the tryout, I knew that I had in the bag. So I felt confident. I saw that the cameras were always around where I was when I was trying out, and I purposely showed off. I mean, I purposely showed off. Like, so we had to do lifting for the first half. It was like a full 8-hour day. So the first half of it, we had to lift nonstop, and we had to squat only. I think the max was 95 pounds. So we only had to squat 95 pounds. But I was like, Coach Hayes was like, if you can go up higher, you can. So I purposely went and squatted like 115. And I purposely went and did it for 2 full rounds. I did a whole extra round just because I was like, I'm going to make sure I stand out. I'm going to make sure that I show them like I can do this. But after I did it, oh my gosh, my legs were dead because it was like hours of nonstop lifting.
Hey,
and then I was like, I'm going to do a whole extra round. And I kept doing that during the whole tryout. Like every time there was an extra round, I would go and take the extra round. Every time I had the opportunity to go heavier, I would go heavier. It's just, you got to do that to stand out.
That's the whole point of tryout though, isn't it? That's the whole, like, you're meant to stand out. You're trying out with a group of people. You need to stand out from that group. So it was worth it doing the squats with just a little bit extra, even if it hurt the next day. I'm sure it was worth
it. My dumbass did not know that we had like icy hot available to use. So I was so sore the whole tryout. I had to do it all over again, like, do a whole day of rolls and stuff the next day. And then the third day, when it was supposed to be promo day, they gave us a surprise workout. And we had to do extra working out after we did promos. So I was like, what? Yeah. But, it paid off. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I guess it was, there's pressure. Yes, of course, there's always going to be pressure. But I didn't feel Like I felt more in the zone than worried.
There was pressure, but you was confident too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the main thing, being confident in your ability to do it. And especially, I think it's quite an inspiring story that you've had to go from not knowing, like, when you were younger, what the difference between amateur wrestling, Olympic wrestling, and pro wrestling, to then having a tryout with WWE and being confident in your ability and smashing it by the sounds of it, to then getting signed by WWE. I think that's a really cool story that you should be proud of. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, even now, like, to be signed, the first signed female to MLW, that's something also to take pride in, because MLW's been around for a long time, like you said. And I don't think a lot of people realize how long it's actually been around. When I first started watching indie wrestling back in 2003, MLW was around then. And
Yeah.
yeah, I know they took a break in between, but now that they're back and they're one of the top companies in America, so I think it's going to be incredible when they come back. And to just be the first signed female is cool in itself. But I mean, like you said that you trained from, you learned from Brian Kendrick, and you've had all that wealth of experience at the WWE Performance Center. Do you feel like it's made you into a more rounded performer now you're wrestling with MLW? Do you feel like that experience in WWE has really helped?
Yes, definitely. I feel like WWE, they really understand psychology, which
Mhm.
is, I think, the most important thing, especially when it's for TV. At some point, if you keep seeing the same people, it's going to get old when you do the same move sets all the time. Yeah, so I think that is really important, is learning how to do psychology, and that's something I'm still trying to work on.
Yeah.
It's like a never-ending learning experience with wrestling. It's like endless. So there's, I'm trying to be well rounded. There's still a lot of things I personally want to pursue in my wrestling career and be more well rounded. But I'm very much a ground girl, and I I noticed that when I was in WWE, like halfway through, the trend for high flyers was really on the uprise. So it became a real big thing. And I mean, I'm never going to be a high flyer. It's just too late at this point. Like, I don't have any type of background in that. But the thing is, I want to be able to do everything, like, at least decently,
Hmm.
even though it's not my forte. So that's something I would like to add. Um, but yeah, I want to have more things involved. I want to be able to. I just recently started incorporating a little bit of humor into my wrestling, because normally I am very silly in real life, my shoot life. But the thing is, my character is so serious.
Yeah.
Character is serious just because my background and everything that led me to where I am now is because of a crappy upbringing.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, emotional and very real thing that's pushed me to where I am, and so I feel like I shouldn't forget that. I shouldn't forget that, and I should incorporate that into my character, because, like, the underdog story is very much me, like, very much me. But everyone has underdog story, it seems, or a lot
Sure.
of people do. So it's like, all right, now I need to get out of being so depressing and serious. Let me show the more goofy side of me.
Well, as they always say in wrestling, the best characters are just yourself. Like, if you can play yourself in wrestling, people will believe it and get behind it. And if you are silly and funny in your shoot life, then that's the best thing to do. If you can incorporate that into your wrestling, then that's brilliant. Because I think to do comedy is actually quite hard, and to do comedy well is even harder. To make people laugh is one of the hardest things you can do. So
That is so fun. Yeah.
because, and I think it's actually quite cool that you're going out of your comfort zone, so to speak, to put that into your wrestling. And a lot of people don't do comedy wrestling because it's so hard to do. And you get like your Colt Cabana, for example. He's a master of comedy wrestling. But I'm really interested to see where you go with that in the future. So I'll be looking out for the next time you do something in the ring and you do some comedy. I'll be like, oh, there we go. That's what you were talking about.
I'm just sprinkling a little bit in
Yeah,
here.
just a little bit. Not full comedy, just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I was going to say, like, when I wrap up interviews, I usually say, where can we find you coming up? Obviously, the next time we'll see you will more than likely be in MLW. And MLW did actually reschedule their May show to Saturday, October 1st, which is in Dallas, Fort Worth, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just from the MLW website. I thought I'd see when the next MLW show is coming up. So obviously that was meant to be in May. The next Fusion show is in October. So that might be, maybe when we'll next see you, or hopefully shortly after. So absolutely looking forward to seeing you do what you can do in MLW and live up to your potential, because you've only had one match there so far, but I'm sure it's not the last, and I'm sure you're going to do great there. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? Obviously, you've got social medias, and I did actually see you're an artist as well. Do you want to plug your art page too?
Well, that was just for a little fun, but yeah.
Hey, I really liked it. I had a look yesterday, and I saw you doing some like murals or something, or some painting.
Yeah.
Really good. It's just I love the style of you post like rooms and stuff, and really cool looking like minimalist kind of rooms and stuff. I've got a list on Instagram where I save all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was going through yours and I was like, that's actually really cool. So I'm needing to bring that up at the end of the interview because I thought it was good.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it, because I love all art, all types of art. So especially now that I'm older now, more grown up, I guess, I have become more interested in interior design, because I want to design my rooms and stuff like that, my place. So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I might as well incorporate my art into what I need to do, because I'm all about being efficient also. So killing two birds with one stone. So let me draw some art so I have an excuse to draw it, because it's for decorating a room.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can mostly find me on Instagram, Zeda_Zhang, ZEDA_ZHANG. I am mostly on there, but I also have Twitter, the Zeda Zhang, TikTok, which is probably gonna be shut down soon. Triller is the new thing replacing it, I guess. So that is just Zeda Zhang. And then Patreon, patreon.com/Zeda Zhang. You can see all that in my bio on Instagram, because there is a lot. I'm literally on everything.
Every social media, you're on it all.
Social media.
Hey, you've got to be on every social media these days, especially as a pro wrestler, But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you today, Zeda. I really hope we can get you on again down the line when you're back in MLW, and maybe we can talk about what's currently going on in MLW and see what your future holds. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we've been Ringsiders Wrestling. See you next time.
Thank you.